everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today I have with me Freddie van Huynh. Now, Freddie is the co-founder of Absolute Internship, one of the world's largest internship programs for students that he started 12 years ago. He's been frequently covered by Forbes Magazine, New York Times, Bloomberg Businessweek, Financial Times, and BBC News. Freddie is recognised as one of Sweden's top entrepreneurs, having built a multi-million-dollar business from the ground up. And I'm having a chat now with Freddie from Barcelona. Welcome to the show, Freddie.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm excited to be here.
Okay. So I just love the Zoom world we live in today, the 24/7 world. It's 8:15 in the morning in Barcelona, and it's 5:15 in Sydney, Australia. So, Freddie, tell me a little about your past and how you started this, because obviously you're not European. And so how did this all happen? Where did it start? What was the inspiration for this?
Okay, where do I start? So I was born and raised in Sweden. My parents are from Cambodia, blue collar workers. Never been to high school or university. No one in my family has been doing any higher education before. So when I grew up, my biggest goal was to actually get an education so I can get a better life, so to speak, than my parents.
Yep.
Fast forward, I got accepted to a business school. And in my third year, I was an exchange student in Shanghai, China. And my roommate, he was an intern. And I was like, what's an intern? Because back in Sweden, internships back then was not a big deal. And I was telling me, well, it's like you working for a company, you're learning the ropes, but you're not being paid. It looks good on your CV and it helps you land a graduate job. I was like, oh, that's amazing. I should do that. A lot more people should do that. And I met a lot of other interns when I was there, even though I was a student. I had student interns working for the Beijing Olympics, Heineken, and so forth. The year after, I was an exchange student in Japan, which was an amazing experience. Met people from Australia, from all around the world. And once I graduated, I moved to Thailand because I always, after university, I wanted to live abroad. And during my time there, I couldn't find a job. Literally applying to hundreds of jobs. I didn't speak the local language. So what I did was, you know what? I've always been a big football fan, soccer. So I went to these Adidas factories and Nike factories, and I was buying shirts, jerseys on wholesale. I was selling them retail on eBay, and I was making $500 each month. I was basically living on $1 or $2 per day in Bangkok, which gives you like some really good meals, you know. But I knew it was not sustainable, Jeff. Around that time, I got a Facebook message from one guy that I went to school with in Japan, because a few months earlier they've been reaching out to me and they said, "Hey, Freddie, like we're looking for internships. Can you help me?" And I was like, "Okay, sure. I know some previous interns back in Shanghai, and I helped hook them up with these internships in Shanghai through my old network that I had." But this was before Airbnb, before Booking.com. Like it was not as easy as it is today to like move to China, so to speak.
So what year was this?
This was 2008.
Right. Social media was actually just starting.
Exactly. Just started. So they ended up getting their internships, but it was really, really hard for them to find accommodation, because when I was there 2007, I was literally knocking on real estate agency doors, you know, to find a flat. It was not like, hey, I'm going to go on Airbnb and book something, you know. So when he sent me this Facebook message, we're like, well, like, how's everything? Thanks again for your help. And I was like, okay, how was it? Did you have an amazing time like myself? And they were like, well, no, because of all these issues, finding accommodation, not being able to find friends. And I gave that a thought, and it was this weekend. It was a Friday. I was watching Sopranos. I was a big fan.
Oh, what you watching?
Sopranos. I don't know if you know this TV
Sopranos. Yes,
series
yes,
from
yes,
the
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I love that.
Yeah.
And after this show ended, I was literally Googling, Jeff, summer internships, because I wanted to know what was out there. I was like, what's out there? And a company popped up. They were organizing summer internships in New York City, selling programs for $12,000, and they had 400 students each year, and all of them were from the US. And I was like, you don't need help to get an internship in New York. People speak English there. You need help in China, where not a lot of people speak English.
Yep.
That was sort of like the light bulb went on.
The aha moment.
Exactly. Around the same time, like within the same days and week, I discovered a new book that just came out. It was called The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I'm sure you know that book now, Jeff.
Well, that was one of the inspirations of starting the blog back in 2009 for me.
You see? Yeah. So,
so Tim's got a lot to answer for. Tim Ferriss. Okay, right. So.
Yes. But it was, for me, it was so eye-opening, and it became a huge inspiration. I was like, you know what? I want to build a company where I can work from anywhere in the world.
Yep.
And selling internships, because I saw the company in the US, they had an office, but I was like, you're not going to go to an office to look for an internship. You're probably just going to Google that. I was like, you know what? I can do this from Thailand or from China or from anywhere. So that's how it started, Jeff.
Okay. So you were traveling the world already. So you went to China, you went to Japan, you went to Thailand, but you're originally from Sweden, even though you were Cambodian. Your parents are Cambodian. So that's quite a fascinating story, really. It's like you're actually Cambodian heritage, but you're Swedish.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. That's correct.
Yeah. So you went to China. Okay, let's just wind that back a bit. So you went to China. Why'd you go to China?
Ooh, I love that. That's a nice story, Jeff. So I was like 8, I think I was 8 years old. And my mom had this random idea. She's like, do you want to learn Chinese? Yeah, literally, Jeff. I was like, well, when you're 8, you're like, I'll do whatever you say, Mom. So my mom, she convinced, I come from a very, very small town in Sweden called Gnosjö. There's only 10,000 people. And there was 4 or 5 people from China. 2 of them were Chinese teacher. One was retired and one was the active teacher. So my mom basically convinced the retired teacher to teach me and mentor me. So I took Chinese classes 1 hour per week and 1 hour each day after school. So when all my friends went to play video games after school, I went to have Chinese classes. Fast forward a few years, obviously now I've been very immersed in the Chinese culture, learned so much, speak the language, but couldn't practice with anyone except my Chinese teacher. So in high school, I met this accountant, and this was a man that drove a nice car, a nice suit, a guy, like a man I looked up to, and he said, where are you going to school? So I was like, going to this university, this business school. I'm like, okay, that's amazing. You need to go and do an exchange semester. And I said, yeah, I want to go to France. I want to go study in France. And like, no, you need to go to China. And I was like, why China? Because China's going to be the future. So he's sort of like, I had the base now, okay, I learned Chinese. I understand the culture from a theoretical point of view, at least, because I've never been to China. And this was the man I looked up to. I was like, okay, I'm going to follow your advice. And to do an exchange semester, Jeff, it's very, very competitive because you don't pay any tuition fee.
Right.
But I was lucky. No one wanted to go to China in my business school. This was like 2006 when I applied, and I was able to in 2007. So I was able to go. And that's the reason I went, Jeff.
Okay. So when did you go to China? You were 13, 14, you're a teenager? Were you, or 8?
No, 2007, I think I was 20 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went there. How long were you in China for? And this is what's great about life, isn't it? You actually go, I'm really quite interested in this. And if your parents give you the freedom to do that. So do they help you get to China? How did that happen?
No. So I was there for 6 months, Jeff, to answer your first question. They didn't help me. No, I had to book my own flight. I had to sort out my own visa. I had to figure out my stuff when I was there, which was extremely difficult and overwhelming, especially since it's your first time in China. And I don't know if you've been to Shanghai, where I was, but 25 million people. But no, they didn't help me. No.
Yep. Well, that's I've been to Hong Kong, but haven't been to Shanghai. So you organise it all yourself. So you're 20. That's pretty cool, actually. So after China, so you did that in China. You then went to Japan. So how did Japan happen?
Japan was also an exchange semester. So basically, I was able to go to do 2 exchange semesters abroad. And it was the same thing there. Nobody helped me to get my visa or accommodation or anything. First time for me as well going to Japan. What I found out was the school organized an airport pickup. That was the only thing that I paid extra for, and then just arrived at campus and we're like, okay, now I'm in Japan. So
you can maybe speak more than one language.
Yes, that is true. So I learned Japanese when I was in Japan, but today I don't speak Japanese anymore because I haven't practiced it for so long, Jeff. But today, yeah, it is true. I speak 7 languages. So I love meeting people and being immersed in different cultures, and I love people in general. So
yeah. So this is what's interesting about life. Quite often, what you imagine, what you want to do, exceeds the reality of what it feels like. In other words, the myth exceeds the reality. So what I admire about what you've done, Freddie, is that you've actually gone and tried a lot of different shit. Okay?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you've done, what you've experienced from that is going, this is what I love doing, this is what I need to do. And you only discover that if you do it. Because in other words, the idea here versus the reality there is often very, very different. In other words, the actual reality can be underwhelming, or it can actually be overwhelming. So in other words, the reality either exceeds a myth or underwhelms a myth. So, and it sounds like you've tried to help people with internships going, okay, why don't you go and try different stuff? Is that sort of what happened?
I think what happened was, my mom, she gave me, when I grew up, she gave me a lot of self-confidence, self-esteem, and she really inspired me.
Yep.
And not to say that my father didn't do it, he did it as well, but my mom had like a deep impact. Yep. And I think with Absolute Internship, I had such a great time when I lived in Japan and China, and living abroad, really I grew so much. And I think with Absolute Internship, I wanted to create an organization, an experience for other people to grow and have that inspirational impact that I had,
Yeah.
For sure. This is the reason why I started Absolute.
Okay, so you had the experiences that actually revealed the world to you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And out of that, then you're going, this is what I want to do.
100%.
And that's how Absolute Internship started, because you had the experiences in real life at a very visceral level that helped you actually do that. So this is where sort of like your innate ability, loving people, experiential, and love, and what you love doing, sort of turns up as this beautiful intersection. And that's what's really, really cool, is that, so you've done all these things. So what was the starting point of Absolute Internship then?
So people think that you start a business and you create a 40 pages business plan.
No,
For me,
yeah, no, sorry. I totally agree with that. Fuck the business plan, okay? You're about to tell me that you didn't even write one.
No, like literally it was just 2 pages on Word. I was gonna do it, Jeff. you know. So because we had I had $2,000 together with my business partner
Okay.
saved up, but I didn't have a computer. My business partner had a computer, so we had one computer, and we looked up how much it cost to like incorporate the company, and that was $2,000. I was like, that's too expensive. I need to spend 1,000 getting a website first,
Yeah.
So, and then another 1,000 maybe for another computer, because we can't be sharing a laptop. So yeah, that's how it started. Basically just writing down how we're going to get customers, how much we're going to charge them, a company name, and how the website was going to look, a little bit of website text. Basically, that's how we started, Jeff.
In other words, it wasn't overcomplicated.
No, I'm all about simplicity. So
Yeah. Mate, I so on song with you there, really. It's just, if you write a business plan that predicts what the future's going to look like, you're actually going to fail that already, okay? Because the market's going to tell you what works and what doesn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. So you write a very simple business plan.
Very simple.
And you did, and you
Very
obviously
simple.
sound like you didn't use a complete template. You didn't copy,
No.
a
No.
Harvard degree master's guy that actually written how to do a business plan. You went, fuck it. I'm actually just going to write a business plan that just comes from my heart. And that's how you started.
Yeah, basically things that made sense, like how are you gonna get customers? How much you gonna charge them? Like how's the website gonna look like? So
Yeah. Okay, so you've written a two-page business plan. What happened next?
what happened next? Okay, so we had the money, right, in the bank, $2,000, and I was like, we need a website. And let's go on forums and try to find one, So what I did was I reached out, I think 5 or 6 different website agencies, and they were asking for $5,000 to $7,000. I was like, okay, no, we don't have that. So I was going on forums, which basically, okay, website designer, and I was going to Swedish forums, and I found a guy, and he said, I'm gonna do it for $1,000. I'm gonna help you guys. So, but you need to design it. I'm like, I don't know how to design. So my business partner said, like, I can do it on PowerPoint, because that's the only thing I did. I know. So she did it on PowerPoint. He was like, that works. He said, whatever program you want to do it on. So, so that's where the first $1,000 went to. My favorite soccer team is Juventus. It's a team in Italy. He was like, well, do you have a logo? I was like, no, but these are my favorite colors. So the logo was inspired of that. And then the other 1,000, we basically went to buy a MacBook, And so imagine we started this business, like, all right, website up. We didn't even have a bank account. This was like PayPal had just started. So we didn't even have a PayPal account, So I was like, how are people gonna pay us? And I was like, you know what? I have like an immigrant name. It would be really shady if people wired us money to my account. Let's use your mother's bank account for new customers. So for the first few customers, it was pretty funny, Jeff. They're like, you know what? Who's this person I'm wiring money to? So we had to convince people that, you know what, that's one of the shareholders of the company. So for the first few thousand that came in, we actually used that money to incorporate the company, you know, and be legitimate.
I love it. You know what? This sounds like the creator's journey, which is actually the entrepreneur's journey, which is where you go, I'm going to start a business. I have an idea. And you're just testing it. And then you're going, but I'm so glad you bought a computer with the next $1,000. That's really good.
Of course, you know, you need to have a tool, you know. I know my parents, they were like, you know, you want to go to work, but you don't have a tool. You need to get the tool. And I said, yeah, you're right, mom and dad.
Okay. So you've started, you've bought a MacBook, you've launched. So what happened from there?
We launched, we started to get a few customers, and it didn't go as fast as I thought it would be. There's a lot of people.
Welcome to the real world of entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think... sorry, you're not Amazon or Google or in 2 days, right? You're getting slightly disappointed, are you?
Yes, and you know, I was young too, and I think people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Okay, that sounds like a Bill Gates quote to me.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what Bill Gates said.
Oh really? Okay, I didn't know that.
I thought you were ripping off Bill Gates there, right? Actually.
No, not intentionally, not intentionally.
No, but that actually is the reality.
Oh yeah, it is true.
As humans, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. We underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
Yeah. I know my mom, she told me that, you know what, of all the overnight successes that I had seen, well, in her life, you know, it takes 5 to 10 years to build like a stable business. And she's like, are you willing to like really live below your means for so many years? You know, I remember her saying that to me. And yeah, it was tough the first few years, you know, very, very challenging, Jeff. And
yeah. So Freddie,
I think,
yeah. So Freddie, what you said is actually exactly what Bill Gates said. In other words, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we actually underestimate what we can do in 10 years. Like seriously, that's what Bill Gates said. It's like you're channeling Bill Gates, right? Okay. Seriously, that's what he said.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. That's nice. You know, I didn't know that. So
I think like Bill Gates hasn't died yet, but mate, you're actually channeling him already. Okay, right? Seriously, that's what he said. So I totally agree with you. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to be willing to play the long game. In other words, just act every day. Even if you just do one thing every day.
It's all about improving 1% each day.
And at the end of 1 year, you've done 365 things.
Yeah.
At the end of 10 years, you've done 3,650 things. Add a team around that, starts to get rather exciting, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've launched it. You start to get traction. You've got a MacBook. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I still have it as a souvenir. I'm not gonna throw that away, you know.
No, mate. Hang on to that and put it up on your wall. Frame it. So you've launched. What happened from there?
You launched, I think it took us 2 years. Yeah, 2 years or 2.5 years. And we got our first like media feature. BBC featured us. Because now China started to be much more in the media, and the media was really interested in why students went to China for internships.
So
So we got featured.
in other words, your mum was correct about China being the future.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
So she's a prophet, actually.
oh, good gut feeling, good gut feeling, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. So, yeah.
So I think, well, from there it just took off, you know. Then like it just grew 300-400% each year. The New York Times, Bloomberg happened, and then just more and more media outlets reaching out to us, Forbes, and yeah, like just kept growing, you know, and our team grew as well. And yeah,
So, how many on the team now?
right now we have 18.
Okay. And you're turning over what sort of revenue, if you want to reveal that? Up to you.
Yeah, no, it's a few million
Wow.
each
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Okay. And you're changing people's lives.
Yeah, it's extremely fulfilling, Jeff.
Yeah.
Extremely fulfilling. The job I have, I'm very very blessed.
You don't have a job. You actually have a platform that's changing the world, mate.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Well, you have. It's like it's not. It's evidential.
Yeah, you know what? I appreciate your kind words. I don't take it like for granted. It hit me a few years ago when we had a student from the Midwest in the US, in Beijing. And I was there with him, and he'd never been abroad. He was telling me he comes from a small town, think like hundreds of people.
Yep.
Everyone goes to the same church, everyone are of the same skin color, everyone votes for the same political party. Came to Beijing, extremely overwhelmed, never seen so many Asian people, and so fast-paced city, millions of people living in Beijing. And after 6 weeks in China, the guy was so comfortable, like buying street food on the street, not even speaking the language, speaking with his hands. And he was telling me, Freddie, like, thank you so much for this experience. You literally changed my life and the way I see the world. And it has really opened up my mind. And I wished more people from my town in the Midwest could have had this experience, because I'm sure it would really change their outlook of the world. And that meant a lot, you know, Jeff. I think it from that specific student, I really appreciated it.
Yeah. Well, here's the magic of travel, which you've just revealed, is that it shows you a world that you've never discovered before. And you realize that your world is just closeted, and you need to actually experience the world. And this is what's really exciting about travel. It actually opens your mind and shows you a world that you never knew existed. And then you can actually understand that actually a lot of people aren't the same as you. And you'd open your mind and actually let the world come into you. And it's really empowering. So when I started my blog, back in 2009 actually, I'm going, well, the rest of the world thinks the same way as me. And they're going, no, they don't think the same way as me. And the more I traveled, the more I realized that I needed to actually let the world come into me, and the world changed me and I changed the world in my own little way. So, and this is what's really good. It's like travel can transform you so much, and you've done that. You've gone from Sweden to China to Japan. You have a Cambodian mother and father. Mate, you have a gift, and that's actually just so needs to be embraced by the world. In that, if we traveled more and not get closeted, we actually would go, look, we need to look after each other. Because, and we're in the middle of this, a war in Europe, which is really frightening for all of us. So, we don't need to have war. Why do we need to have war? Why do we need to kill people?
Yeah.
And we need to welcome people. We need to actually encourage them to grow. And I think that's really, and that's what you're doing, right? You're actually encouraging people to try new opportunities at low risk. And I remember, so for me, my own story too, is I was a teacher and I hated teaching. I did a teaching degree. And I went, after 5 or 6 years, said, I don't want to do this anymore. So I went and tried 3 different internships. I arranged that myself. I didn't have your company to help me do that. And I chose the one that resonated with my soul, which was technology. I just want to just get involved with technology, sales and technology. And guess what? It changed my life. So I think what you're doing is encouraging people to have a multiple level of experiences that will touch their soul and allow them to experience the world in a different way, and they'll discover why they're here on the planet. Is that what you're helping them try to do?
Yeah. Spot on, Jeff.
Cool. Because, mate,
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know. Until you actually go and
true.
try stuff, you don't know. So
Yeah.
what we're going to do, and what you're doing is, I so think what you're doing is fabulous. And that's, you are revealing a world to someone that they didn't even know about. And it's low risk. They're not doing a degree. They're not spending a lot of time, not spending 3 or 4 years. They're just training a few weeks working for someone. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Because I tell all the students, that you spend so much time and effort and money, in your degree.
That's
But
right.
there's so many people that have a great university degree from University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, or whatever school it is that you're going to. But I don't think the degree prepares you for the work life, like how are you gonna know if you're gonna like working in a bank? How are you gonna know if you're gonna like working in a tech company unless you try it out? And that's what internships allows you to do, to really test drive it, to try it out, see if you like it,
And I love the term test drive it. Mate.
Yeah.
So the reality is, test quickly and fast and cheaply. And guess what? And let your soul tell you. Like, I love Steven Spielberg's quote. He says, like, what you're meant to do in this world will turn up as a whisper. It will not shout at you. The only way you'll discover that is by going out into the world and feeling that, sensing that, doing that. And you're providing a platform for people to do that. Mate, it's so fucking cool.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Because I imagine being a doctor when I was a kid. I imagine being an accountant. And I started my degree doing accountant. And I imagine being a teacher because that was the only other option I had. And I discovered that I hated all of those.
And it's okay.
Yeah. And so what I did is I went and tested for just 3 days working in a technology company. I went, this ticks the box for me. It felt right. And for the next, well, we're here today. I'm still doing technology. And wow, I've had multiple intersections on that journey. But what's really cool is that I now have a career business that touches that and just feels right, and I keep evolving that. So what you're doing is providing a environment to help people experience quickly what they want to do. I have no idea about it, and that's, mate, to be celebrated. I think you're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that.
So to wrap it up here, what's the top tips for people that are trying to discover why they're here on the planet?
For me, what has worked for me in order to figure that out is to try different things. try new experiences and you have never done before.
Absolutely, mate.
That's the only way to do it, to figure out what you like. And secondly, if you can afford it, if you can do it, try to do it in different countries. It's going to open up your mind even more,
Yeah.
So I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I totally agree, mate. It's so cool. I haven't had to try different things in different countries. You speak 7 languages. I'm still struggling with English.
No, you're doing great, Jeff. You're doing great.
Yeah. I just love playing with words, right? I like word wrangling. If I went into Chinese or Japanese or Swedish, I'd be doing a really crap job, really. Okay, so I'm concentrating just on one language, which is English.
That's fine too.
Yeah, but I think we live in a world where we actually can experiment quickly and fast. And I would encourage anyone to actually go out and try different things before they leap into spending 3 or 4 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for degrees. And that happens in America, happens in Australia.
Yeah.
So be very careful about incurring debt to learn. Go and learn without debt. Learn. Just go and try different shit out. Really, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, let's say that you're 22 years old and you're unsure about what you want to do in life, which is completely normal at age 22.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in South Australia, in Adelaide, and you don't have the financial means to move somewhere.
Yep.
You can do a remote internship working for a company in Sydney. You can do a remote internship working for a company in Hong Kong, for example. And you can do several of those. The only cost that's going to cost you is your time. But what you're going to gain is different experiences.
Yeah, and wow. And guess what? You will discover very quickly what you love and hate.
And that's the purpose of that.
It is the purpose of that. So what do you love? What do you hate? And it's the intersection of both your innate ability, what you love doing, and your experience.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you can fail fast and quick, mate, you're going to find life a lot faster than you would based upon your parents' experience.
Yeah.
Because they weren't able to do that. We actually have the tools now and the platforms to do that remotely and virtually.
Yes, exactly. We live in a we should be grateful about the tools that we have.
Mate, I am so grateful every day about that. Actually, a lot of people don't know that is what we have today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like you can go to down the street and you can check what people are saying about each restaurant. Like,
That's right.
Like, and you can choose a restaurant based on, reviews. Like you couldn't do that like 20 years ago, 15 years ago,
No. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly, mate. So, Freddie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience that in your entrepreneurial journey, with your very simple, dysfunctional 2-page business plan? And
I think, I would love to share that one of the biggest takeaways, throughout my career, and something that my parents really, really pressured me on. Like, you need to read books because we don't have the network, we don't have the business mentors to provide to you. You need to find those mentors in books. And
mentors in books is fabulous, mate. That's where I found mine. Yeah.
So I would encourage everyone to read books and to invest your time in books, and also follow the advice that really resonate with you. And for me, it has been Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, a book that was written like over 100 years ago.
That's right.
And a lot of people read books, but they fail to apply what's written in the book, and what has worked for me is actually to follow the advices and take them seriously. And it has really, really worked. And I would encourage really anyone to read books.
So what you've done is you've taken an idea that you learn from books and people and then what I love about books is that a book is actually a distillation of someone's entire life distilled into 200 or 300 pages that you can learn in a few hours.
And very cheaply too. You're buying a book for an average for $10, you know.
That's right.
Or you can download them for free, you know, online. So
That's right.
the choice is yours.
That's right. So my mentors have been books too, Freddie.
I'm glad. I'm really glad, Jeff. They're really underrated.
Yeah, well, one of the best books I've read is by Stephen King. He wrote a book on, even though he's written a lot of fiction, he wrote a book called On Writing.
Okay.
And he said that books are a time machine. They take people into the past, they take people in the future. The other thing I love about
100%.
And the other thing I love about books is that they distill 30, 40 years of someone's life experience into just 200 pages.
Yeah.
And wow, you just go, I digest that in 2 or 3 hours. It's like, that is a gift. That's a gift.
It is, you know.
Yeah. And so for me, just like you, sounds like books have been my mentors. And I think the other exciting thing is that you've traveled the world and learnt and listened. You've listened to your heart, and you've actually then said, I'm going to share this with the world. And that's why we have Absolute Internship today. And I would encourage anyone to go out and try an internship in a variety of companies, and that's what you offer to them. And guess what? You will discover life much faster and accelerated by doing that than anything else in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, mate, thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing your gift with the world. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and hear your story.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on the show, Jeff.